Hello, my name is Preston, and I'm with Pointit. Thank you for attending our webinar today. The topic will be SEO Horror Stories, and it will be presented by Corey Banks and Ruth Burr, two of our SEO client managers at Pointit. What I'd like to say now is at the end of this session, we're going to do a Q&A. So during it, we really encourage you to send in questions through the GoToWebinar platform, and we will get to as many of those as we can. But we have a great presentation today, so let's have our presenters take it away. Take it away, Corey and Ruth.
Thanks, Preston, and thanks everybody for coming to our presentations today on SEO Horror Stories. My name is Corey Banks.
And I'm Ruth Burr.
And we're really excited to present this for you. But first we're going to do just a little bit of house cleaning here.
So a little bit about Pointit. Since April 2002, Pointit's been providing PPC and SEO solutions to a variety of clients. We're Seattle's largest independent search marketing firm, and between the 12 of us, we've got over 40 years of SEM experience, which is a lot. And when you've had that much experience, you've seen some scary stuff.
It's not uncommon for us to sit around here and talk about SEO experiences, and it feels a lot like a campfire where we're telling spooky, scary stories, which is the theme for today's webinar. So we're going to share just a couple of terrifying, spine-tingling tales, like the story of the site that mysteriously vanished from the search engines.
The terrifying tale of the stakeholder who knew just about SEO to be dangerous.
The horrifying story of the term that you couldn't use on the website.
The even more horrifying story of the term that would not die.
And the ghastly, spine-tingling website made entirely of Flash. Ooh.
So grab your blankies, campers, and snuggle up because it's going to be a spooky morning. So the first spooky tale that I like to tell is the tale of the haunted website. This is a true story. A couple of years ago, I was working for a client in the B2B space, very large company, and they had recently received some media attention, so they got really excited, wanted to redo the website, and just make everything look spiffy and nice. So everybody worked really hard on a website redesign. Got everything launched, everything set, hit go, everything looked good. I came back the next morning and the site had completely disappeared from the search engine rankings. Completely. Terrifying.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrifying. So this is something that can happen. What had happened was when I resubmitted the sitemap to the search engines, an old penalty had come back, and we had gotten slapped for it and gotten penalized right out of the search engine rankings.
What kind of penalties could cause something like that to happen?
Well, Corey, I'm glad you asked. There are certain things that websites can do that are going to get you penalized by search engines. They don't like to see them, and they don't want them in their index. These can include things like keyword stuffing, which is when you take all of your keywords, sometimes hundreds of keywords, and put them all in the code. So you can't actually see them on the page, but they're hidden in the page's code. Another thing that people do with keyword stuffing is they'll take, this is kind of old school, I don't know how many people do this anymore, but back in the day, people used to take hundreds of keywords and put them all on the website, but they put them in the same font color that was the background color of the page. So again, users couldn't see them, but they were visible to search engines. Another common site penalty is for cloaking. Cloaking's pretty shady. Cloaking is when you create a page that can determine by the user agent whether the visitor to the site is a person or a search engine spider and present different content to them based on who they are. The search engines don't like to see things like this because while we search engine marketers might want to make the search engines happy and create content just for them, search engines stay in business by providing the most relevant content possible. So anytime you're creating things that are just for the search engines and not for users, that doesn't help the users of those search engines get to the most relevant result. The search engines don't want to see it, and they'll slap you. Some other things that you can get seriously penalized for are bad links. And what I mean by a bad link is a link out to a site that has, it's a link farm, so it's a site that's just created to link to other sites. You can get penalized for selling links. If people are paying you for your site to link to their site, that's a big no-no. If in general you're linking out to a lot of other sites that are deemed to be poor quality or disreputable, the search engines don't like that. It's an indicator that you yourself are poor quality and disreputable, and you can get penalized for that. It's important to note with bad linking that the search engines understand that you can't control who links to you. I mean, you're not the king of the internet. So just having links from other sites to your site, even if those sites are spammy and disreputable, that in and of itself isn't going to get you penalized. But if you combine that with a lot of links out to other spammy sites, that's a sign to the search engines that you're in a bad link neighborhood, and they could kick you out for it. This next penalty is something that I'm sure that nobody on this call would ever do, and it's malware. Malware is when a site has a bit of code in it that automatically downloads to a visitor's computer something like a virus or spyware, which is software that logs your internet activity to try to log your keystrokes, steal your passwords. Malware is the reason your grandma thinks that the internet is trying to steal her identity, and it's a big problem. And like I said, I'm sure nobody on this call would ever do something like this, but sometimes your site can get hacked, and that code can be in your site without even knowing it. And obviously, the search engines can't tell right off the bat who put that code on there, and to protect their users, they'll knock your site out of the index. This last penalty that I want to talk about is duplicate content. Duplicate content is a little bit different because you're not necessarily going to get completely kicked out of the search engine rankings for it. Duplicate content is when you have a page on your site that's substantially the same or exactly the same as another page on the internet. Usually what will happen is the search engines will try to determine which of those pages came first or has the most relevance, and will only display that one. So that could get individual pages kicked out of the index. The only way a site would get completely kicked out of the index with duplicate content is if it were exactly the same as another website, which in my terrifying tale of the haunted website turned out to be exactly what had happened. Unbeknownst to me, the client had created exact replica of the site and put it at another domain in a misguided but earnest effort to get more traffic. And when I resubmitted the site maps, the search engines couldn't tell which site to index, so they indexed the other one, which I didn't even know about. So, well, that was a time of some serious panic for me. It turned out to be something that could be fixed. So speaking of fixing these penalties, should you get penalized, what do you do? Well, the first thing that I always like to tell people, and I can't tell you how many times this has happened, is make sure that you really are being penalized. If you've been ranking for a term that you're not ranking for anymore, if you Google your favorite keyword one day and your site's not there, that could mean that you've been banned, but it could be a host of other things. You might just not be ranking for that keyword anymore. You might have slipped down in the rankings. Don't use that as your only indicator. There are ways that you can see if your site is still in the index at all. And if it is, you probably haven't been banned, obviously. So what you can do, an easy, simple way to figure out if you're in the ranking still or not, is to use the site query. It works on all three of the major search engines. Just type in the word site and then a colon and then your root domain, and hit search, and it'll show you every single page of your website that's in the index.
This is a really handy tool for finding out how many pages are indexed. What you want to make sure you do, though, is don't include a space between the colon and the beginning of your website. Otherwise, the search engines will just return a normal page of search results, and that's not what you're looking for.
If your problem is only in Yahoo, Yahoo provides a tool that I actually am a big fan of called Site Explorer. The URL's right there, and you can go in there and it'll show you exactly how many pages it's been indexed, and it'll also show you some stats on your site. So Site Explorer can be cool to check out just because, but it's also the first place I would turn if my site got banned from Yahoo.
So we've determined that we're knocked out of the index. What do we do next? How do we get back in?
First of all, if you've been penalized, I'm sorry, dude. That sucks for you. But first thing you got to do is figure out why. Go back over these factors that I've listed and try to figure out if you've committed any of these crimes accidentally. I'm sure anybody listening to this call would only do something like this accidentally, but it does happen. So, I mean, it's just like this poor little child when he's gotten in trouble. It's basic apologies. You got to fix what you did wrong and make sure that it's completely fixed, and then say you're sorry. And how you say you're sorry to the search engines is you file a re-inclusion request, and we've got the URLs where you can file a re-inclusion request on the next slide. And you just submit the request saying, hey, here's what I think I did wrong. It's totally fixed now. You can check it out for yourself. Please, 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 please let me back into the index. And
how long does that take normally? I mean, you apologize. You're as humble as possible. How long does it take for a search engine to finally let you back into the door?
I've seen it take days. I've seen it take weeks. I've seen it take months. It really depends on what you did and how bad it is and how quickly they can review your request. With my duplicate content thing, it was an easy thing for them to check out and see that it was fixed because the other site wasn't there anymore.
Is it bad to? I would think it'd be bad to resubmit yourself again, like multiple times, and say, no, really, please help me out. I'm really sorry, put me back in. Like if you send them multiple requests, that's a no-no.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You just kind of have to wait it out, and once you do get back in, don't do it again, because you've painted a big target on your forehead, whether on purpose or not, and they are going to be keeping a closer eye on you. And sometimes, like Corey said, you can't really just file request after request after request. If they're not going to let you back in, you kind of have to start over. So file your re-inclusion request. Here are the URLs where you can do that. These slides will be available after the presentation. And if you can't get back in, like this plucky young lady, you just have to build yourself a new domain. And when I say a new domain, I mean a completely new domain. Use a different domain name, different URLs, change your site architecture, and be squeaky clean. This is sort of SEO propaganda, but it's also really true. At the end of the day, you want to be building for users, not just because the search engines say build for users, but because users are the ones who are going to give you money, who are going to become leads, who are going to interact with your website in the ways that you want to. So if you build for users, then you should be okay.
So you did get back in, right?
I did, yes. We got back in just a couple of days, but it was a heart-pounding couple of days, let me tell you.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. That's a pretty scary story.
Thank you. You think that's scary? I got an even scarier story that this first story is a good example of, and that's when a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. These young ladies, oh, look at them. They're so cute.
Darling.
They're so enthusiastic. And enthusiasm for SEO is something that you often get with a client, and it's definitely not a bad thing in and of itself. Obviously they're interested in it, but what can happen is that people take it upon themselves to go out and research SEO. Again, great. You know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Everything's cool. Not necessarily. The problem with people going out and gleaning just a little bit of knowledge about SEO is that SEO changes really fast as a field, and things that worked in 2005 don't necessarily work in 2010. Things that worked in 2008 will get you banned in 2010. It's a changing marketplace, but there's still a lot of older content out there, and it's easy for someone to learn just enough to be dangerous. I was working for a client. This is my scary ghost story about this topic. I was working for a client, a small company. They had an e-commerce site, and it was a small company. It was, I think, about 10 people, and the VP of the company, great guy, super smart, really engaged, but smart enough that he had this very curious, enthusiastic mind, and he went out and researched ways in which search engines index pages. Again, great. But then he came up, because he was an IT guy, he's very technically minded, he came up with this strategy wherein they would build some pages that would only display when the user agent was detected to be a search engine. They build pages just for search engines. And as we learned earlier, that's called
cloaking.
And cloaking is bad.
Big finger wag at that.
Big finger wag. But fortunately, he came to me with this idea after they had started a process to implement it, but before they actually implemented it, so we were able to get him out without actually incurring a penalty. And there are things that you can do when somebody comes to you and they've got just enough SEO knowledge to put your entire site in danger. I always like to say, educate, don't mourn your fate. It rhymes, and it's true. What you want to do is make sure you're setting expectations early in the process. Make sure that everybody's on the same page about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when it's going to get done, when they're going to see results. If you don't want your clients or your stakeholders internally to be misinformed about SEO, then you need to take it upon yourself to train them up right, teach them what they need to know. And a lot of times when somebody's going out and finding incorrect information on the internet, it's because they're uncertain about what you're doing, whether it's going to work. They don't know enough to have confidence. So you need to give them your confidence by setting clear goals for them and then obviously delivering on those goals. One of the things that we like to do at Point is get us an SEO charter, which is a timeline of everything that's going to be done and when it's going to be done, and deliverables and expectations not just from us but from the client as well, because it's a cooperative relationship. And that's an actual physical document that I like to get an actual physical, literal, pen on paper sign-off on, just to make sure that everybody's literally on the same page.
It's always best to show the client what it is that you're going to do for them so you can answer any questions up front and you can temper that enthusiasm that they have so that they know that if they're excited about something, before they react to it and get a plan in place that doesn't include you, they can talk to you about it and you can give them your advice and your expertise.
And this is all well and good, but sometimes people still are going to question your authority. And it's just something that happens, you know. Like I said, you're not the king of the internet. And so when someone does come to you with a concern or doesn't think that what you're doing is going to work, use data. Data is an SEO's best friend. If you don't have enough data from the project that you're working on right now to back up what you're trying to do, try to use data from another project that you've done using similar strategies that have worked. Find a case study. Report on your results frequently, and use charts. Don't just give them a list of numbers. Call out your data in ways that are easy to visually process. Everybody likes a chart. Look how much this guy loves that chart. That's a great chart. And it's that kind of chart that you want to show them. Don't be afraid to brag. If your reporting day is Monday, but it's Wednesday and something really cool has happened, shoot them an email and say, hey, look at this really cool thing. You might seem like you're building yourself up, but look at this guy. He's awesome. He knows he's awesome. And that's really the more confidence you can have in the project, the more confidence that you can give other people about your project. And one of the ways that you can give people confidence is by finding your SEO champions. If you're working, and this works in-house as well as with clients, if you're working with people and you can educate them about SEO early on, get them on your side, make them your advocates within the company. I mean, especially if you're working agency side, there are going to be meetings that you're not going to be in.
I cannot stress this point enough. You're not going to be there for everything, and what always goes wrong with an SEO engagement is somebody expecting something else to happen. If you can garner your SEO champions in the client's organization that you're working with, everybody's going to be on the same page, and everybody's going to be excited about the same things that you want to accomplish.
And that means that even when you're not there, you've got advocates there saying, no, SEO is great, everything's fine, it's going to be cool. And they can let you know if there is a problem early and often. And if things get really rough, you can always go back to your charter. So even though somebody learning enough SEO to be scary might seem dangerous, in the end, it doesn't have to be that scary.
Yeah, that wasn't that scary. I think I've got a scary story.
Oh, bring it on, Corey.
Okay, so this is a spooky little tale that I call The Perils of Flash. True story, not making this up. My first SEO experience was with a Flash website. The client that I was working with ran a restaurant, and restaurant websites, Just like band websites and just like ad agency websites tend to be all Flash-based. It's a novice SEO's nightmare. You know, you cannot work around Flash. That's the common thought, right? You can't make Flash search engine friendly. So the client sends me the link to his website. Says, we're not going to be able to change this. Take a look at the website, see what you think. And I clicked on the link, and this is what I saw. That's not what the client wants his website to look like.
Oh, that's ugly.
Turns out I didn't have the Flash plugin installed on my browser because, I was a bit of a newbie. So I explained it to him. I showed him what the website looked like to me, and I installed the Flash plugin. And when we looked at his website, here's an example of a Flash website, right? This is a very nice looking website.
Oh, there it is.
But it only looks good to us. I said, sir, this is what your website looks like to the search engines. And it's not really what you're expecting. This is all they see. They see just a little bit of content. They don't get to see the rich, full media that you've included with your website. So we talked a little bit, and we found some ways of working around it, because he was not going to change his website. But we could make some alterations to make the Flash website friendly for search engines. Flash isn't the enemy as we often think it is.
I often have thought it's the enemy, and there are a lot of reasons why.
Yeah. So we don't want to use too much Flash for a website because, as we see in my example, it limits your audience. Not everyone can view Flash. Some people at their computer can't install the Flash plugin. A lot of people now with iPhones can't view Flash. There's a lot of mobile browsing going on in this day and age, and those people are locked out of Flash. Without any alternate HTML content, the search engines aren't going to see anything either. This is something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but there are ways of showing people who can't see the Flash media content on your website. We can show them normal text, and it can look just as nice. Crawlers don't know what to look at on your website if it's Flash, especially if it's one lump Flash website and there's no additional pages involved. A search engine crawler bot looks at that web page and thinks, that's just one page. Why do we care about that?
There's no content on it.
Yeah. So that's something you want to work around as well. Also, just from a usability standpoint, if it takes a long time for your Flash application to load, it's going to make your website look pretty sloppy.
That's especially important now that more and more people are using mobile devices to browse the web. Anything that takes too long to load on a mobile device, with Flash it doesn't matter because they can't see it anyway, but anything that increases your load time is something you should take a second look at, and that includes Flash.
So we've established that using all Flash is bad. That's a scary scenario. What can we do to optimize around Flash, though? The answer is making a hybrid website. You want to make sure that you're using Flash and standard HTML and CSS. Using them in combination is what really makes a website presentable and SEO friendly. So a few tips here that we have for Flash optimization are make sure that your site navigation is static. When the crawlers and your users go to your website, we want to make sure that they're not waiting on one big Flash app to load or they're not seeing anything at all. If you have a static HTML site navigation, they can move to different pages within your site right from the beginning. Also, keep your URLs unique. Make sure that you have pages that are in a normal progression for a website. Again, using all one big lump of Flash that looks like one web page is the problem. You want to keep yourself from doing that.
If you have multiple pages, each one of those pages should have its own URL. And that's something that a lot of Flash websites end up forgetting, is that from a search engine perspective, one URL equals one page.
And this actually, from a development standpoint, is very easy to do for Flash devs. They can make pages that are linked within the Flash application. So it can show the search engines that you have a body of pages on your website instead of just one kind of empty page. Another tip for your Flash development team is to use real text, actual text in your Flash app instead of image text. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times when you're designing a Flash application, you're dropping in bitmapped text like you would if you were building a PDF or a Photoshop document. Instead of doing that, use actual selectable text. In this day and age, the major search engines, Google and Yahoo, can now crawl the text that's in your Flash application, which will make the whole hybrid Flash website concept much easier to accomplish. Another way that you can make your website really SEO friendly is a bit more technical. It's a JavaScript implementation called SWF Object, and this lets you provide alternate HTML content for interested users who can't see Flash. Now, this is pretty tricky, and we've actually got some links for you later on that are going to, like, if you're interested in building this out for your website, you can take a look at the code and best practices. But essentially what this JavaScript implementation does is it places the Flash on the website, and it looks at the browser, and it sees if the browser can read the Flash or not. And if it can't, it can provide alternate content that will be much easier to read for search engine crawlers, for users who are on a mobile phone. The only thing that we would stress is that you don't overdo it with this. You want to make sure that you're representing the content in your Flash application exactly. Don't go overboard, and don't start adding in a whole bunch of extra content for the people who may not be able to see Flash, because as we've discussed, that can look like cloaking.
And cloaking is bad.
Cloaking is terrible. So there's a lot of different ways that you can build your website around Flash and keep it SEO friendly. Adobe, the creators of Flash, they actually have a great resource for this. If you go to Adobe's Developer Connection for SEO, they've got tutorials, they have new news announcements for progress that they're making with the search engines. I mean, a ton of great information for developers and for SEOs on how to make Flash work for your SEO-friendly website. We also have a link here for the code base for SWF Object. This is the preferred SEO-friendly way to embed Flash on a website. So go there and take a look at some of the information. Again, a bit more Flash developer-friendly than normal SEO, but it's a great resource. And don't forget to read Google's Webmaster blog, especially when they talk about new developments with Flash indexing. Since 2008, they've made great strides with Adobe to make your Flash indexable. Not just the Flash application itself, but some of the content that's contained within. And if you keep all of that in mind, along with providing a basic HTML framework for your website, it's not impossible at all to optimize a Flash-friendly site.
I gotta say, Corey, I was a lot more afraid of Flash websites before I started talking to you about this. I personally have never really run up against the specter of an all-Flash website.
It can be pretty terrifying, but if you haven't run into that, I've got a blood-curdling tale that I'm sure we've all run into. This is a ditty that we like to call, "I want to be number one on shoes."
Oh, no.
Okay, true story. This didn't happen to me. This happened to a friend of mine. He had been working with a client, and they'd been 2-3 months into the engagement, and they were working with this great list of targeted keyword terms. They knew exactly what they were going for. They had optimized some content on the website. They had started link building initiatives. Everything was going really, really well. And then he gets a call from the stakeholder, and the stakeholder says, "Why aren't we number one on shoes?" The client in this case was a shoe retailer. He'd plugged in shoes into his browser, and he didn't come up. This is every SEO's nightmare. We've all been through this before. How is it that we combat this expectation? How do we show a client that a broad term like shoes isn't what they want to go after?
Well, just to play devil's advocate for a minute here, Corey, if they're a shoe store, why wouldn't they want to rank on shoes?
Because shoes isn't the best term for them. There's a reason why we go after longer, more niche terms, more actionable terms. And that's because when you compare shoes with a term like buy blue shoes, they're on completely opposite ends of the sales funnel. What we want to do at PointIt is make sure that all of our SEO engagements are focused on ROI, that they're focused on profit. We want to be able to show results. And it's not just about gaining a ranking on a very broad term and having a vanity search work out for you. We want to help these people buy services. We want to help these people sign up for leads.
We want to help these people give our clients money.
That's right. That's exactly what it's about. So if we look at the sales funnel here, shoes is at the top. People are just searching for interest, for awareness. They're doing a little bit of researching. They're not ready to buy yet. But if we look at a term like buy blue shoes, someone puts that in and their intent is to buy blue shoes. That's where we want to catch people. That's where we want to drive people to your website so they can purchase things. Now, there's another reason why we don't go after broad terms. And it's another reason why we don't focus so much on rankings here at PointIt. It's because of the concept of personalized search. Google has been making great strides in providing a personalized search results page for everybody who plugs something in. And what this means is that if I put in a term, I may not see the same level of results that someone else will in a different part of the country, in a different state, in a different city, even for someone sitting right beside me. Let's look at this from a demographic scale, right? If a late 20s urban male plugs in the exact phrase music, that's a pretty broad term, and they might see listings from Yahoo's music site, music.com, MySpace. Yes, people still go there, but a middle-aged suburban mother, maybe in a completely different city, maybe they're nowhere near Seattle where we are, they might see something different. Based on their usage patterns, they might be more interested in going to Apple's iTunes website. They may not see MySpace at all. And this is a pretty general example, but it's not uncommon to see completely different search engine results for different search engines.
So even if the guy at the shoe store were to Google shoes and see his site #1 in the rankings, does it mean that I being a young urban female who buys a lot of shoes, I'm going to see that same result?
Absolutely. We can't account anymore for exactly what someone is going to see based off of ranking alone. Now, how does this work? Google has a service called Web History that tracks everything that you're searching for. Take a moment, go to your Google search results page and click on Web History and be as surprised as I am by just the amount of information that Google has on what you're searching for. They track specific queries. They can give you monthly search activity. It's a bit terrifying to know just how much information Google has on me. And it's not uncommon for anybody. It's not even really important to be logged into your Google account anymore. Since early December of last year, they're tracking this information for everyone, regardless of whether you're logged in. Now, how are they doing that? Cookies. We probably already know this, but cookies are little text files that are generated by your site visits, and these are used for a variety of different things. It's not uncommon to have a cookie on your computer keeping your login information for Amazon.com or personalized layout information for Dig.com when you're reading content. Cookies are everywhere, and for as much information as they track, they're more useful than they're unuseful, and so a lot of people keep those on. I can't imagine using the web without cookies.
This slide makes me so hungry.
But the important thing about using cookies is that Google is using that information to track what you're searching for, and they're going to give you a more personalized web experience than we've ever had to account for before.
So, okay, you convinced me shoes is not the best term for this site, so how do you know what you should target?
We should be targeting actionable phrases. We should be going after specific audiences. What are people searching for? Are they actually searching for a broad term like shoes, or are they looking for a specific type of shoe? Maybe they're searching for Nike shoes. Maybe they're searching for a specific color of shoes. Maybe they're even looking for just fancy dress shoes. It's important when you're doing your keyword research to think of those possibilities and not be limited to just broad phrases that we think everybody's looking for. Also take a look at the terms that are relevant to the content that's on your web page and the services that you're providing. This is incredibly important. You have to make sure that your phrases, your targeted terms, match up with different pieces of your website. And then you want to use those phrases that you're targeting to drive them deeper and deeper into your website. Don't think that you have to be limited just to whatever it says on your homepage. There's a lot more to your website than that. Also make sure that you're looking at competitive opportunity when you're doing your keyword research. If we look at shoes, we're competing against 200 million other results in a sample search.
That's a lot.
That's like looking for a needle in a haystack. You can be lost very easily in that. But if we look for a more targeted term, like buy blue shoes, we're only competing against 419,000 results then in Google. And that's still a lot, but your chances of finding your audience, showing for that kind of search result, are much, much easier than a broad term.
Well, that is a pretty scary tale, and it's definitely something that all SEOs have dealt with at one time or another. But at least your friend had a client that wanted to rank for a term that had to do with their website. I have a scary story that's actually almost the complete opposite of yours, which is the client who doesn't want to use their own best keyword terms.
No.
And I know.
Is that possible?
It is possible. And this is a tale that is so thrilling, so terrifying that all of the names and identifying details have been changed to protect the innocent. So this stylish young man he's very enterprising, and he's taken it upon himself to build a website selling men's bags. But he doesn't want to use the phrase man purse. He thinks it sounds silly. So instead he's going to use the term merce. Man plus purse equals merce.
I'm sure that somehow makes sense.
You can't make this stuff up. And he was adamant against not wanting the phrase man purse to appear anywhere on the site. And this is going to happen. Sometimes you're going to run into people, you'll do your keyword research, you'll take into account all of the things that Corey just talked about, and you'll come back with some keyword terms, and sometimes they're terms that they don't want to use. And there are a couple different ways that you can deal with that. It depends on why they don't want to use them. Sometimes it's as simple as they don't have any content on the website, and that has to do with your keyword term. And if you can, and this is every SEO's dream, if you can convince them to either create new content or let you to create new content on their website, create a page that's just about your topic, and use your keyword thoughtfully on the content, that's ideal. You can have a new page.
That is just the best case scenario, because then you are creating content for a website where you have control over exactly how it's formatted, exactly how it's keyworded. That's taking a problem and flipping it into an opportunity as quick as can be.
Oh, well said, Corey. Sometimes they just don't want the keyword on the site, though. It doesn't have to do with building a new page. They just don't want anyone to be able to navigate to a page on their site that uses the term man purse. So, okay, what can you do? You can get social. Try going on social media websites like CitySearch or Yelp, or forums that have to do with their products or services, and using that keyword there. Chances are you can get that page, that conversation to rank for that keyword and at least drive some secondary traffic. This is important to do tastefully and carefully, because if you're too blatant about just doing it to drive traffic to that website, it's going to look too salesman-y, they're not going to like it, and by they I mean users, and they're not going to click. Sort of the other side of that coin is going to pay-per-click. If they're doing a pay-per-click campaign, you might be able to convince them to build a landing page, which isn't accessible from the rest of their site, is for just pay-per-click traffic, and just pay to advertise on that keyword. It still gives you some real estate on the search engine results page for that keyword, and you also have compromised in terms of not using it in their main site content. Sometimes, I mean, the best thing I always say, and I'm sure all of you are getting that this is my theme, educate. Make sure that your clients are informed about why you're recommending the things that they do. This is real results from WordTracker. WordTracker is a keyword research tool I like to use. You can find it at www.wordtracker.com. And it shows, for example, within the man purse example, man purse has a ton more searches than merce. The fact that they both have searches on them at all is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, the real terrifying thing to this story is that merce has 35 searches.
But 35 searches compared to 139 searches is often a convincing enough argument that you can talk your client into at least letting you use the keyword somewhere. Sometimes none of those things work, and at the end of the day, you don't know your client's brands or their business as well as they do. How could you? You're not there every single day, living and breathing it. So if you can't use it, you got to go around it and get creative with your keyword research. If you can't use man purse, if you can't get those 139 searches, you have to find other keywords that maybe drive less traffic, maybe they're more niche, but combined are going to make up for that traffic you've lost by not being able to use your dream keyword. So go outside somewhere, kick back in a grassy field, and think about the other keywords that you can use. Then back that up with your keyword research.
So that's not so terrifying anymore. I think we've taken these 5 horrible worst-case scenarios and we've flipped them around and turned them into something that we don't need to be afraid of anymore at night.
But I'm sure that our audience still has things that they're terrified about, so now we're going to turn it over to our audience questions and find out what our audience is afraid of.
We do have a few questions here from the audience. This first one that we have here is, what can you do if you find out your site has been hacked and has malware on it?
Well, one of the nice things about Google specifically is that if you've got a Webmaster Tools account, which you should sign up for because it's free to do, just Google Webmaster Tools. In Google Webmaster Tools, it will tell you whether or not you've been punished specifically for malware. That's actually unique among the penalties, in that they'll tell you this site or this page has malware on it. And then Google Webmaster Tools Help will give you a series of steps that you can take. Obviously, your first step is getting that malware off the page, but they do have a specific malware-only review and re-inclusion request, which actually tends to get addressed faster. So if you can get it off your site, and get it off your site, dear Lord, then you should be able to file your re-inclusion request pretty quickly. Next question, what kind of things do you include in your SEO charter?
This is really important. You want to lay out every single step that you're going to take so that you have actionable items for your client. We like to lay out things such as, here's when we're going to update your sitemap. Here's when we're going to deliver completed keyword research. Here are our recommendations on what terms to go after. Here's what we're going to do for your link building. Here's our strategy. And we don't like to be mysterious about this kind of thing. We want to tell you what kind of sites we're going to go after, how we can bring more people to your website and really build rankings and more traffic. So be as thorough as possible. If you can show your clients exactly what you're going to do, there are going to be fewer questions down the road.
It's also important when you're outlining your SEO charter to stress that SEO can take a couple months to start really showing effects. You might not see effects right away, and that's something that we struggle with as SEOs, is that if you've been working for some people for 3 weeks and they're like, I've been paying you for 3 weeks and I don't see any difference in my site yet, well, you're not going to. It takes longer, and so the SEO charter is also a great place to manage expectations about how long it's going to take to see results.
Here's a really good question that I think everyone kind of worries about. How do I know if anything is wrong with my SEO? Well,
that's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, where to begin on that one? There's a lot of things that you can do to check and see. Basically, you want to start with your best practices. There are things about SEO that we just know are true. So take a look at your website. Find out what you can change.
Make sure that your website is easily crawled by search engine robots. Make sure that you've got your SEO keywords used on every page. In the end, the way that you know your SEO is not working is that you're not getting the traffic that you want. You're not getting the conversions that you want. And that's a big, I just want to take a step back here and say conversions, whether it's sales, whether it's leads, whatever your goal for your website is more important even than traffic. If you're getting a ton of traffic to your website, but none of those people are sticking around, giving you their information, then your SEO still isn't working, even though you're getting a lot of traffic. So you might want to take a look at the terms you're targeting, make sure they're appropriate. Make sure you've got website analytics installed. Google Analytics is a great free tool that you can install, and it'll tell you where on your website people are bouncing off. It'll tell you what keywords are driving traffic to your site. And
you might notice the theme here is that we always start looking at on-page factors first. We always take a look at the website before we worry about linking or off-page factors. Ruth has a great analogy for this. Do you want to tell your analogy?
My analogy is that you got to clean up your house before you invite people to the party.
And it's so true. You always take a look at your website first before you worry about any outside factors that you can't control. We've got another question here. How important is page ranking as shown by the Google toolbar?
You know, that is an issue that has generated some controversy in the SEO community over the years. Basic consensus among SEOs now is that the page rank that you see in your Google toolbar has little to no bearing on what your actual page rank is. You know, if you change things and you see an improvement in your toolbar page rank, that might be an indication that your actual page rank has improved. But it might not be, you might not have actually gone from a 4 to a 6. I always tell people to just turn off the toolbar page rank. Don't look at it because it'll make you crazy and it's not real.
It's the kind of metric that will drive you crazy. It's really, at best, it's one of a handful of factors that we take into consideration when we determine progress. And at the end of the day, your best indication of progress is to see what's going on your website, taking a look at the real actionable metrics that you report on.
All right, another question here. If I have multiple domains, is having them point to the same website a bad thing to do? Well, yes and no. Not if you do it right. So earlier on, I was talking about duplicate content and how somebody had put up a website that was identical to another website of theirs, and it has caused problems. You can have as many domain names as you want, but if you've only got one website, you should pick the website that is going to pick the domain name that website is going to live on, and all of your other domains, you should use a 301 redirect, which is a specific kind of redirect to, and your webmaster can help you set that up, to show users and search engines alike that, okay, this domain name, actually all of that content has moved and now lives at this new domain.
You basically want to make sure that you're picking a canonical domain name. This is where the site actually is, but if you happen to find us from this address or that address, they will get you there too. And for as technical as that change might be, it's actually pretty simple to implement. So, I mean, that's very much a 10-minute fix for your web team. And it looks like those are all the questions. Preston, do we have any more?
Actually, there is one more question, and then we will wrap. Here it is. You may already have covered this already, but I just got a suggestion that I stuff my meta tags to about 50. Is there a good site to send folks to that can explain the latest basics to good SEO?
I mean, there are a ton of great websites out there. Anybody, stop listening to whoever told you to set your meta tags to 50.
That's not a good. I would say no on that one.
But there are a ton of really great websites where SEO professionals share their knowledge. I really like Search Engine Land, just searchengineland.com, run by former Seattle resident Danny Sullivan. It's a great site. A lot of different industry professionals are there contributing content on the latest SEO best practices. There are a bunch more. Search Engine Land is my favorite.
And I mean, you always take a look at pointed.com/blog. We talk about a lot of SEO issues there as well. It's worth taking a look at. Just do some searching on the net. There's a lot of great information out there.
One way that you can make sure that you're finding the right information, because we talked earlier about how that can be hard to do, is look at when the content was created. If it's an article from 2007, that doesn't mean that it's not true, but it could mean that it's not true. Try to find the most recent content. Fortunately, people who are writing about SEO tend to know how to get relevant content up in the search engine results. That can be kind of a mixed bag, but it does mean that if you're searching on search engine topics, you can probably find a relevant source without too much trouble. And I think we're just about out of time, so I'm going to wrap up. Thanks for joining me here today, Corey.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Ruth. I'm glad we got these stories out of the way, and now maybe we don't have as much to be afraid of in the middle of the night.
Well, what I wanted to say is thank you, everyone, for attending. We will be delivering not only the deck, but also a copy of the presentation next week. This is one in a series of many of our educational online marketing webinars. So we will also be having one next month. And stay tuned, and we appreciate your attendance. Thanks.